Hello everyone! Today we are going to be learning about multiplying and dividing integers. So if you guys remember back to the first videos that you guys watched, we were adding and subtracting integers, but now we're moving to multiplying and dividing integers. And there are different rules for multiplying and dividing. They're not the same as adding and subtracting. So these are the rules that you're going to have to remember in order to multiply and divide positive and negative numbers correctly. So what you're going to have to remember is that a negative multiplying another negative is going to equal a positive. So a negative times a negative equals a positive. And a negative times a positive equals a negative. And it doesn't matter which number is bigger. It doesn't matter if the negative is on the first number or the second number. If it's a negative multiplying another positive, it's going to be a negative answer. Also, the same thing goes for division. If you have a negative dividing a positive, your answer is going to be negative. If you have a negative dividing a negative, your answer is going to be positive. Now, when I was learning how to multiply and divide integers, and I was trying to remember all these rules, this is like a really weird way that I remembered. So if you see here, we have three numbers, 1, 2, 3. Now, what I would always remember is that you have three numbers, but two of them are going to be negative. So right here, we already have the two negatives here. So the answer is going to be positive. Now over here, we only have one negative and one positive. So we have to have a negative answer because out of these three numbers, two of them are going to be negative. And that's how I would remember if the answer is going to be positive or negative. I would check. If there was only one negative, the answer has to be negative. But if there was already two negatives, the answer is going to be positive because out of the three numbers, two of them are going to be negative. That's just how I would remember it, but you can do it however you'd like. Whatever helps you remember is fine. So let's start doing these problems. We're going to be doing something called diamond problems. So in this diamond problem, you see we have two numbers. We have a -3 and a 4. And right here, we have a little x, which means multiplication. And right here, we have a plus sign, which means addition. So what this means is that we're going to multiply these two numbers and write the answer up here. And then we're going to add them and write that answer right here. So we have -3 times 4. Remember, negative times a positive, it's going to equal a negative. So this is going to equal -12. And then we add them. -3 plus 4. These are different rules. So right here we add them. It's going to give us +1. When you're adding, you do take the sign of the bigger number. But when you're multiplying, it doesn't matter. It's just a negative times a positive equals a negative. So remember the different rules. Now moving on to this one, we have a -3 and a -4. Negative times a negative equals a positive. So it's going to be +12. And you're going to add them on the bottom. -3 plus -4 equals -7. Now over here we have a -7 and a -10. A negative times a positive equals a negative. So your answer is going to be -70. Now you add them on the bottom. -7 plus 10 is going to be positive because you take the sign of the bigger number when you're adding, only when you're adding and subtracting. So it's going to be +3. Now here you have -4 and -8. You multiply them, a negative times a negative equals a positive. It'll be +32. And you add them, -4 plus -8 will give you -12. Now over here we have two blank diamond problems. So what you can do here is ask your mom, ask your dad, ask your sister, or come up with them yourself. Write down two numbers, whichever numbers you want, and then solve them on your own to see that it can really be any two numbers. And it can try to have one be a negative and a positive, and then the second one be two negatives, so that you can practice the different rules. You can choose any number. I'm going to choose -2 and 4. -2 times 4 is -8. -2 plus 4 is 2. And now down here, I'm going to choose two negative numbers. I'm going to choose -3 and -5. Negative times a negative equals a positive. It's going to give us 15. And negative 3 plus negative 5 gives us negative 8. And that is how you multiply and divide integers, and that is how you solve diamond problems. So I hope this video helped, and remember that just remember the rules of multiplying and dividing integers, because you're going to need this information in the future when you're doing other math. So just practice, and I'm sure you guys will get it eventually. So thank you for watching.